Hi everyone, and welcome back to weekly Fuel Arts online art tech webinar series, where we are trying to mix the two worlds together to merge the world of art, tech entrepreneurs, and venture capital. From our previous broadcasts, you know that we are trying to invite startups, investors, and art strategists. And our today's guest, he is like three in one. He combines a an example of a successful investor in Web3 and GameFi. He combines uh, the profile of GameFi strategist, and also he is known for launching several successful startups. So I'm happy to present you our today's guest, Constantin Kogan, an award-winning entrepreneur and pioneer in the crypto and decentralized venture capital industry in the field of digital assets and GameFi. Constantin is the founder of Adwivo, co-founder of BullPerks and GamesPad, and also partner of BitBull Capital. Hi, Constantin.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for this flattering introduction.
Well, all the introductions should be flattering and useful for our audience. And our co-host today, as always, Sonia Stavelbein, project manager of Fuel Arts. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Constantin.
Cool. So let's start. Let's go deep into GameFi, because we hear from nearly everywhere. It's all about GameFi. It's all about gamification. All the successful projects, whenever it's art and tech, physical art tech, or digital art tech and NFT, they all should combine the elements of gamification in order to be successful. But our first question will be quite a general one. So, Constantin, how would you describe the overall influence of NFT and blockchain technologies on GameFi sector?
Well, I think the NFTs as a tool, as a digital wrapper, as a part of the entire industry, right? I would consider them as a tool, right? You cannot just separate the GameFi from NFTs nowadays, because it wouldn't exist, right? It's like the ocean without water, right? So this serves as a really useful tool that I wouldn't call it differently. That to first of all, for multiple purposes, for multiple utilities, depending obviously on the project, in games specifically. Right now we're seeing disintermediation, where before big publishers, they were controlling the entire periphery of all the income, and they were striking the big deals with broadcasting studios, production studios, gaming studios, and they were controlling basically the vertical integrated structure. Now, what that means for small, let's say, indie game studios, for content creators, they will have to go to them, right, and somehow strike a deal and participate, and have a small piece of the pie. So the rules are changing right now with decentralized technology. We were seeing, in actuality, that any talented team, right, can go out, present what they have, and if the community supports it, here you go. Here you are. You can raise any amount of money. You can build amazing products. You have the support of projects with zero venture capitalists. I mean, I want to pause just on this part. I think we went through a lot of interesting evolutionary steps in crowdfunding, right? And crowdfunding is not new. It existed before the NFT world and before GameFi. But what we're seeing right now, that the crowdfunding before, I would say, 1.0 was focused on equity world, right? When you have a share of a company, and then your exit strategy still is tied directly for the company to go IPO, and then you kind of monetize somehow your trust in a fractional ownership of the company. Now, I think what is extremely beneficial for retail investors across the world is that they can participate in the token or an NFT of a project, and the exit strategy, so to speak, the ability to actually go in the secondary market, is much faster. we're talking about light speeds. If you would compare it to the previous, I would say, set of rules and the game that was mostly like 5 to 10 years, right, when the company actually goes IPO. So I think that speeds up a lot of things. Now, obviously, it comes with a price. So maybe later we're gonna go to the topic of the risks and other like pros and cons of this, right? But I think just the fact that we have the ability for the creators to and for the young startups to have this luxury of getting out there and actually having support for their community and build this like in a very short period of time. I've seen projects launched in 3 months, literally. That's already a huge deal.
Thank you. Cool.
Thank
it
you.
sounds inspiring.
It really does. We also want to hear your comment on some numbers because, as you probably know, we did 2 reports. We released one like this March, another one just recently. So the latest one was about first half of 2022. And so according to our research and our reports, investments in art tech, GameFi sector in 2021 was 230 million, but already for the first part of 2022, it was much higher. It was 490 million. So how would you comment these numbers and how would you explain them?
Well, the numbers are growing. Again, we have our own research that we conducted also, like the Metaverse more. That was our angle, right? But again, as we mentioned before, NFTs is an integral part of the entire kind of scope of like whether it's art or whether it's Metaverse angle, GameFi. The interest is growing. Obviously, there are a lot of experiments. They're very fresh, so to speak, right? So I think we're doing pretty good job in initial like primary offering experiments, but I want to be also very realistic and honest to everyone who's listening to us that the secondary market is not doing great right now. We've seen like numbers.
Thank you. It's just something with your camera, so we only hear you, but we don't see you right now.
Oh.
Could you turn it on? Yeah.
I have no idea why my camera is not working.
Okay, now it's loading. We might see you now.
I think it's maybe StreamYard because I didn't change anything. Should I try to reconnect?
You have a button.
Yeah, I pressed it.
Stop cam and now you have to.
Yeah, it's Chrome and
we see the flywheel.
I know.
Yeah, so it's just loading.
But the flywheel works well. I mean, it's moving. It's fantastic.
That's my avatar. I literally did. Okay, let me change. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Good.
Okay, now we see you. Perfect.
It's
Sorry.
technology, like it works with no intervention from humans anymore. So coming back to the topic, right? So I think we're doing incredibly well with primary offerings, with all the experiments, just the launching, like and building the communities. We're still very kind of fresh and very early on the secondary markets, and the numbers don't lie. Like when 90% drop off, like with the volumes, like and the floor prices are going down a little bit. Like that's an indicator that we haven't experienced enough cycles in the NFT markets right now. So you need like, in any market, emerging market, it needs certain fluctuations, ups and downs, and obviously I'm not going to go into what's happening to our traditional economy, so to speak, right? And recession, inflations, and all the numbers, they're not looking well. So when the other markets are not doing well, typically when the dollar is strengthening, right, it's not really good for Bitcoin, because if you think about it, and for the entire industry, cryptocurrencies and NFTs, I would say as a derivative of this product, right? They're perceived as an alternative wealth preservation tool, similar like gold, right? It's no longer a secret that a lot of people are either at 2 major audiences. One is one audience is speculators, right? Another audience is people who actually are long-term believers, right? It's a smaller fraction Also, we have to be very honest about it. But that means when the smaller fraction are still holding and they're believing in it, but let's say the majority of people are cashing out for whatever reason, right? It impacts the scope of the entire market. So I would say on the long term, if we're talking about like 2025, right? In the coming like 2 to 3 years, and then to 2030, I believe the numbers will like do 10 to 20x. I have no doubt about it. That the market will grow because it's such a logical transition of wealth and ability to transfer wealth, and like everything makes sense about it on a long run. But obviously, it's a painful path of making sure that the market will stabilize. It will have institutional big players. It will have its own intermediaries. We're going to have a lot of other like building blocks that is necessary for any huge asset, right? So that will take time objectively.
Constantin, let me ask you quite a tricky question, but it really interests not only me but the community as well. We have a Minecraft case. Minecraft, one of the biggest games in the brick and mortar sector. Let me say like this. So we all knew that Minecraft wanted to implement blockchain gaming into their ecosystem, but several weeks prior to its official launch, they decided not to use blockchain despite its intentions. So how could you comment that? What is behind this decision?
Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't comment on the Minecraft decision per se, because I'm not a shareholder of Minecraft. I don't like, they're not my best friends. But obviously, we can speculate a little bit why that happened. There's actually a huge backlash and resistance from traditional gamers, and I mean, I'm talking about traditional gaming companies, right? And there are two sides of this. Like on the one side, they're saying that it's almost like destructive for the ethos of a lot of native reward systems inside the existing big games, right? Which I understand where they might be coming from, but in my perspective, I'm more of I prefer to be brutally honest about it. If I would be them, I would probably not do it as well. Because think about it, they control the entire ecosystem. They make all the money right now. Now, when you're coming with NFTs and saying like, oh guys, let's share the money with all the other parties, let's make less money. They're like, wait a minute. It sounds like very good and altruistic, but what the hell? I'm going to make less money? Why? Like, what's in it for me? So let's be very clear that incentives of conglomerates and big corporations are not the same incentives as retail investors. We have to be very, very clear about that, right? So, and that's why this revolution, as we call it, will take time. Because I don't think not a single company in the right state of mind with shareholders and big VCs will say, well, let's make more money, or let's make less money tomorrow. Let's be very altruistic. Let's give 90% of our profits to the people. I mean, what the hell? Nobody's going to do that, right? So you have to understand that because of that, right? Because they already have the sweet spot, like where they control the flow of the money. They're trying to make it reasonable, and it's actually objectively also it makes sense because they cannot completely change their revenue structures like in one day. They have to make sure they do maybe experiments and see how it goes, if it actually makes sense for them, like financially. So in my opinion, that's the main reason. All the other reasons are kind of the byproduct and politically correct representation of what they're trying to sell to the audience.
Right. Thank you, Constantin. I also was curious, what is your personal perspective on utilities?
On utilities, different utilities of NFTs?
Right.
According to GameFi.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can have like, it really depends on each project. Just like, am I audible?
Yeah.
just making sure, because the picture, this, I don't know what's happening to my stream. Yeah. So it really depends on the niche, because utility, you can program anything. There's a reason why we call it programmable assets, right? And as I mentioned before, the best kind of, I would say, definition of NFT would be, in my opinion, digital wrapper. That means you can wrap into this digital asset anything you want. You can wrap an ability to share proceeds or revenue from an apartment or from a room in a hotel. You can do a fractional ownership of an equity and digitize it. You can digitize huge private equity funds, as KKR is doing right now, right? You can digitize a wearable, like let's say if I wanted to digitize this vest and make the digital copy of this and tie it to the physical actually product, I can do that, right? You can create a digital avatar, a skin in the game that will have value, and because the community thinks it has a special value, right? We already see it in traditional gaming. Like when my classmate, I remember, it's funny to remember this, like 20 years ago, literally bought the first kind of, I think it was tunica or some kind of armor inside the game. It was a funny name in Russian. It's like Бойцовский клуб, like Fight Club. There was a real, like super simple, but you had to buy some special equipment for real money. He bought it for $10,000, I think, some kind of artifact inside the game. I thought he's nuts, like literally. Like, I mean, who would do that? You take a lot of money, physical money from the real world, and put inside the game. Little did I know that then his hero inside the game became one of the most popular, and then he sold it much more expensive, and he made actually money. So I would say the new type of users, they have a completely different perspective of what is wealth, right? And how to value assets. For them, an avatar in the game, their hero, their character in the game might be more valuable than an apartment. And how mind-blowing that, how kind of antagonistic that might be for a person who's traditionally thinking with who's not a gamer. No one cares. There's a new market, there's a huge demand for particular assets, and if you understand that, great, you can make millions of dollars literally in 1 year, right? And then if you don't understand it, you're going to miss the game, and there are going to be others who are going to do that, right? So it's that simple. Utilities have to make sense. They have to resonate with the community, with a particular target audience that you are trying to build it for. I've seen successful NFT project that built a club. They have a special club that they participate in certain deals. They have a lot of giveaways, like even some of them are physical giveaways, paintings, trips to Hawaii or Maldives, or many other fun stuff that they would not be able, let's say, to access in normal way, and it's fun. So it really depends, but I believe it's just sky's the limit. You can program anything you want.
Thank you.
Thank you, Constantin. Let's proceed more to one of your babies, BullPerks. And could you please tell us more about BullPerks, especially what's its mission and vision?
Sure. So BullPerks is a decentralized VC and a multi-chain launchpad. So what it means is that as opposed to traditional VCs, when you have limited partners, you have investors, we didn't have limited partners investors. So we invest on our own in early stage Web3 startups. And the launchpad side, think about it as a hybrid model between a crowdfunding platform for Web3 only companies, so crypto and blockchain oriented only. It doesn't matter, we're industry agnostic. We looked at infrastructure projects, privacy projects, GameFi, DeFi, and many others. And I would say we're acting as a filter for the community. So we have a community of people who have several tiers, right? And in order to get a tier, you need to buy our token. You need to basically lock it or stake it in the system. That's how you prove that you have a tier. And that allows you to participate in deals. What it means that people can actually review the project that is listed on the platform and then participate in it. When I say participate, they can invest a stable coin directly into the project, and then the project sends them basically tokens of the project. So it's like an early stage startup. Instead of equity, you provide tokens, and they're more liquid. It's faster exits because like the vesting schedules can be, let's say, 25% on the token generation event, meaning that again, not investment advice, but if we would speculate, project X would make, let's say, 10x, right? So that really did well. So the 25% that you were unlocked and the token generation event, you already made good money, right? So that's already like, you basically made more than your principal, and it's like 4x. So that shows you an incredible opportunity of this, I would say, Web3 companies to exponentially grow, to be objective. Right now we're in bear market, so the numbers are obviously not that great. Like a lot of projects are postponing their listing. We call them IDO, initial DEX offering. That's in the moment when typically the projects are listing their token on either decentralized exchanges or centralized exchanges in crypto, obviously not in Nasdaq. What we did, we built a community of people who think differently, who actually love this fractional ownership, who understand that yes, it is risky. Yes, the market is crazy. It can go 10x up and then like it can go like 2x down in one day. But guess what? This is the type of risk that they're able to bear, right? And they're agreeing with this. Some of the people actually did really good because of the last year. We did really well. Some of the projects were doing exceptionally well, to say the least. And one project that actually on the peak did 1000x. I've never seen project ever, like in my life, that in a traditional world would do 1000x in the listing. I'm not even sure it's even technically possible. I'll be honest with you. Over years, like yeah, most likely, like if you, one of those famous memes that if you invested in Tesla or Amazon 10 years ago, you would But let's be honest, most of the people cash out when they have 3 to 5x, and they're super happy. Okay, so which is okay. Also, this is the risk parameter that somebody can bear. But I think a lot of the users of our platform actually are they're more risk averse, right? In many ways, and that helps us to to build like a very united community. I think one of the biggest achievements is not only the projects, like we invested in dozens of projects, is that we build very, very tight community of people who are like-minded, who share opinions. Sometimes they give us advices of which projects to list, and they analyze them like in a very, very professional fashion, right? So we have an additional tool of kind of second opinion, So that's in few words about BullPerks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Constantin, if we talk from the side of startup founders, what exactly BullPerks offer them?
So for the projects that are applying to list on us, obviously we add a lot of value. Besides the money that we're raising, obviously we add a lot of value for the marketing aspect. Because again, to explain in a simplified fashion, you can take a check of $100,000 to $200,000 from a VC, and then you get for them advisory, their logo, the reputation stamp that this is like already they support you. That means you went through a thorough due diligence, right? So we do exactly the same. We have a very thorough due diligence process. But in addition, it's like venture capital of steroids. So we provide a lot of marketing support. So we do a lot of posts. We do, let's say, AMAs. Like we do different activation campaigns. And for example, if you want to win the whitelisting spot, you have to kind of go through different hoops and actions to follow their Twitter, follow their Instagram, all the social media. Then we do a PR support. We have extensive relationship with like more than 200 key opinion leaders in the space. So we connect them to the respective influencers if needed, and then we can give them, let's say, like a good introduction to other investors or introductions to some exchange platforms, right? So if they need to. So it's not just like, think about it as like incubation, just in a way, right? But just a little bit faster, right? If needed. But if not, if the project is already established, everything is good, then we just support like marketing. And the last piece I will say why I think it's super valuable, besides the money that you get, right, and the marketing, this money is distributed instead of, let's say, one investor to 2,000 investors. And that's another beauty. Those investors become users of your platform. So instead of having one VC with 200K check, you can have 2,000 users who would actually use your product.
That is very
So let's look at your startups pipeline from another angle. In other words, what is the criteria for the selection process, or how do you to define the appropriate startups for BullPerks?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't say it would be too far from a traditional VC that would look at, the basics. Obviously, we look at the tech, we look at the financials, we look at the team, we make sure that, the target addressable market and product market fit is good. Like, so all those traditional check marks that you have to cross out, right? Then obviously, besides that level, right, when we cross out this, legal is very important. We're very careful with legal and compliance. So we do KYC for every shareholder right now, and anyone affiliated with the company. Now, I would say what is super important is like the vision and how they will implement the strategy. Right, we look a lot at their marketing strategy right now because, let's be honest, the crypto is very sentiment driven, right? So if you know how to build hype, you have much better chances to succeed. If you have a great product, amazing technical product, but you don't know how to build hype, you have less chances than if you know how to build hype and you have a inferior product. And this is just the reality of what we're seeing in the market, right? We've looked at different scenarios. The best teams and the most successful teams are the combination of people who are really good, and it doesn't matter if they come from enterprise background or the tech, but also really talented marketers. It's super important because you go out there with almost like, I would say, the example is like, imagine you're performing naked in front of a huge audience. Like, you go out with a token, right, that is super young, super fresh. The liquidity is not big, not huge. The support of the community is, if you earned it, you have it, right? You have a big demand, you have a big kind of hype. If you haven't done the proper job, what happens? There's hundreds of other projects, and the market is saturated. The attention of a regular investor, especially the bear market, is not on just, oh, let me invest in everything that moves, is to invest in very few selected projects, which are really good. That means they need to have a good cap table, good names. That means they need to have a good exchanges in place. That means they need to have good key opinion leaders who support them. If you skip those steps, I would say the risk of your failure goes up to 80%. So that's where obviously we're looking at it, not only because, like, we're trying to be cocky and we're trying to be complicated and see, oh, there's not, those elements are not there, we're not going to talk with you. It's just because we realize that this is the rules of the market, and if you respect them, you have higher chance to succeed.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
I was wondering about the report that BullPerks actually released recently, GamesPad Report. Could you tell us more about it for the people who haven't read it? And could you tell it like what's the mission and who are the audience that is like you created it for?
The report was.
Oh, sorry, Constantine, we lost you again in terms of
I
video.
know. Okay.
Okay, now you're back. Sorry.
It's my Chrome, I think, conflicting with StreamYard for some reason. The Metaverse Report Emerging Markets was created by Aran and Hanane, who's my business partner, and myself, your humble servant. So the idea behind it was to kind of more educate a lot of our partners, mostly from traditional, I would say, B2B companies. So we're speaking a lot with big brands right now who are interested in metaverse from different angles, right? Fashion brands, they have their own agenda. Retail brands and e-commerce have their own agenda, et cetera, et cetera. So we realized that there are a lot of basics which are very kind of native to us because we live with it. Like it's an organic kind of field, and every day we try to kind of experience it, whether it's presence in metaverse and testing it, or whether it's launching an NFT campaign or participating in some NFT campaign. Because we have our own marketplace. So now we're testing a lot of interesting auctions, lottery systems, and launching NFTs on different chains, et cetera, et cetera. But for a person who's hearing the word NFT for the first time and metaverse, for them, it's kind of like a weird marketing gimmick that nobody understands. We realize that for this audience, we obviously want to create more kind of step-by-step, like a primer, a guide, like where to begin. Like how do you even approach the topic of being present in the metaverse? So that was kind of the main goal, for people to first explain, like almost like a pitch deck in a way that, explain the problem, explain like the solution, why it's important for brands to be present there, why we believe it's inevitable that all the major brands will be there. It's just a matter of time. Then explain the size of the market and the potential of growth. Provide them case studies and examples of successful campaigns that are already out there, right? So it's like a compilation of unique information that can help any company to participate, and also retail investors who are interested, just curious about it, right, to understand it. We also realized that there are some unsuccessful campaigns, which you also mentioned, right, and explain like what was the reason. And we also did a lot of polls. I would say unique. This is pretty unique socioeconomical data, which we gathered from our community, from people who actually buy and participate in metaverses and GameFi. So it took us probably like 2 months to conduct multiple different polls to collect this data. We interviewed hundreds of people, like if not thousands, right? So I'm by default, like, this is what I love to do, and I mean, I actually praise you guys. I think your reports are on a very, very top-notch, high level. No, but seriously, I think you're doing a great job in this. And then I realized that I get inspiration from all other reports of people who are doing that, and we can provide a unique angle for our community and for people to educate. Because last piece of information I would share with you, I think we're so early in this field right now. I mean, the metaverse boomed 2 years ago, right? With Meta basically going all in and saying that, okay, guys, now we're rebranding, we're doing this, like, and this is going to be our new direction. Before that, let's be honest, it was not that popular. It was a niche within the niche. So now only in these 2 years, people are starting to slowly getting into this space, and that means education will be one of the top priorities for any company. Just onboarding the people who are already curious but they don't know where to start, I think that's just like one of the most important piece. That's why we create, besides the report, we create dozens of tutorials, video tutorials, like literally step by step. You go to MetaMask, you create your wallet. This is how you connect. This is how you buy NFT. It seems like super simple and stupid, but you cannot imagine how many times people actually told us like that, thank you so much just for this, because this is where they start. They haven't ever bought like any digital asset. So yeah, that's in a nutshell why we created it. What was the purpose?
Thank you, Constantin. I feel it's just wonderful that you simplify the way for people to actually enter the sphere, and you just make it simple, because as I heard so far, that so many people are having just issues just to start understanding or to start using crypto or like MetaMask, etc. So I feel like it provides great value in general, even with tutorials and with a report. And I also want to ask you, are you planning to release more reports? Do you want to continue that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're actually, yeah, my camera again.
Now we see you again.
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely planning to do some more reports, probably closer to the end of the year. And yeah, closer to NFT and their economics, and maybe we started several campaigns right now in our NFT Marketplace, both auction and lotteries. So we actually today, as we are having this live session, we launched a charity campaign to support Ukraine. We actually now listing basically one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the most famous painters in Ukraine, Himich, like his painting from the series of Sophia of Ukraine. That's it's like a really, really beautiful painting. It has a physical representation. So NFT will serve just as a digital representation. So whoever is buying an NFT will be an owner of a real actual painting as well. And the painting is worth a few $1,000s. So that's like, it has a very clear value proposition. So what we're trying to do right now is auction this like in a traditional auction style and see how it goes, right? And then once it's successful, because all the proceeds will go to charity for humanitarian needs. So we believe it opens up a lot of opportunities, because you can imagine this is just a first trial, right? And then can help a lot of people just to go and do that, maybe with other paintings or maybe with some other assets, right? So that's that. So we believe after we conduct several experiments like that, we'll just write a report explaining of this practical success story, and then hopefully we'll help others to do the same. We don't believe there are competitors. We don't believe we're hiding anything. We're very public, and that's if it can help, and it can support the people in need, that's kind of our motto, and that's what we're trying to live by, those values.
Sounds great. Thank you. Oh, Dennis, we don't.
Everyone has his own tech issues today. So thank you, Constantin, for sharing that info and also for standing with Ukraine. You've mentioned that you created a series of video tutorials for those who wanted to either open their crypto wallet or mint their NFT. Let's imagine we're creating now in a live mode a video tutorial for the investors who want to invest in GameFi startups. So what would be your 3 tips or suggestions for investors? Maybe let's say in the way of steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, or just, regardless the sequence of that actions, just enumerate 3 tips for the investors.
So can I specify a few things, because that's important? Sure. So are we, first of all, are we talking about retail investors or institutional investors?
Cool. So the first tip should sound like, define who you are. Either you are
yes,
a crypto investor or an institutional investor. From our experience, our audience consists of the both investors.
Okay. Then
from your perspective, there are some peculiarities in that. So you may you may specify in that case there might be 6 tips.
So obviously I would first start like, where you are, like what's your risk risk appetite, like all those like basic things, because also geographically where you are, like citizen of which country you are, it's important, and which platform are you using, because it's one way to invest in decentralized platforms where you don't need to go through KYC, know your customer, all those like verification process, and you don't, because in US you have to be very careful, because you have to go through like the process of like accreditation if you're like if you're investing in some registered security or non-registered security. There's a lot of like more complex legal and compliance matters you have to think through, right? That's why I would be very careful based on the jurisdiction. Now, in a decentralized world, right, where you don't care, you just connect your wallet and nobody asks you anything, that's a bit different, right? So then you just, if we're talking about NFT collections, correct?
I'm talking about GameFi startups, or let's say
projects with a token, right?
Yes, let's say. Okay. I mean, from your sphere, from the GameFi NFT on blockchain.
So yes, if we come back to the project that is listed in a token, obviously you have to treat it firstly as a regular startup, right? That means you have to think and understand like through like what's the idea? Does it even make sense? Is this like a solution searching for a problem, or it's a really like a problem that is being solved in a very sophisticated way that nobody else did that before? Competitors are not there. The market is big enough that this company, let's say, is making already revenue, that this company, the team is senior people who already made some, for example, just perfect scenario, made multiple exits or like at least 2 exits, and they're experienced enough to actually build this project and execute the vision, right? Then I would look at how are their skills to build community, as I mentioned, right? Are they actually smart in what they're doing from marketing perspective? Because if they don't capture the proper market in a timely fashion before they actually go live with a token, they might be a huge problem, because you can list only once. The thing I'm talking always about to the founders of the projects who are not paying attention to marketing when they go out with the token, the IDO phase. I'm giving them like this metaphor, like think about you're not prepared for the birth of your child, right? I mean, you cannot undo it. That's all. It's out. so that's the same idea, right? If you're not well prepared for the token offering, it can go really bad, and to basically resurrect the project from the dead if you did some mistakes, it's like really, really complicated. So I would review, again, as I mentioned, the investors. Also, in addition, I would review the exchanges they're listed on. If it's top exchanges, obviously, that if top investors or top exchanges already validate the project, that gives you an information that the project went through maybe a month of due diligence. So they had to somehow figure things out on multiple levels, right? So that's a very positive indicator that, okay, maybe not a guarantee that they will do well, but they have higher chances, right? And so most likely that will be one of my first like basic recommendations. And then obviously from there, there's like, we have a list of like 50 other questions that we go through.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Constantin. I have a similar question, but from different perspectives. So if we talk about startups, what would be your tips for GameFi startups?
Well, I mean, I would say it will be the same questions from the startup, like, and the same recommendations. You have to care. The only difference that I would say, the startup founders, their focus should be on the community. They have to basically live and care about the community. They have to be conducting, I would say in the beginning, maybe even weekly AMAs with their audience. What we did, for example, which I think made us, like, I would say, very transparent and successful in the way that the people felt our openness. We actually did like at least every 2 weeks we were online. We were doing Ask Me Anything sessions, and we're collecting all those questions and recommendations, and we're actually implementing them. So that's important, because community knows best what do they want, right? You don't know anything before about your startup before you actually go out in public. People see things that you would never ever kind of recognize and you would not notice. They would notice, and if they really like you and they support your vision, they will tell you that. I mean, we had people who actually found some vulnerabilities on a technical level, and they like white hackers, like they actually helped us to remove them. Then we had people who recommended us like an interesting feature that we implemented and actually improved the user experience like in an amazing way. Again, the guy was a user like basically UX designer, and he came said like, guys, I love what you're doing, I love your style, I want to help you out. So if you're open to the audience, if you respect your community, you'll have tremendous support. So I would focus on that.
Great. Thank you, Constantin, for sharing your experience and your tips of how to gain success to both investors and startups. I believe that the GameFi community received new adherents during our webinar. Thanks for sharing your GameFi tips, and wishing you great success in developing this, as well as your report. We also read it very attentively and found it very useful.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure to share this experience with you. Thank you for the questions and for your time.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you, and see you next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.